Are you ready? Because the RedZone Podcast starts now. Welcome to episode 19 of the RedZone Podcast. I'm Roast Emmanuel Point du jour, and the Calgary Stampeders staying alive and keeping their playoff hopes alive with a season series win against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who have lost 7 in a row. Calgary came into this game losing 6 of 7, but the Stamps were able to prevail 26-19. This game, it was really weird, kind of a tale of two halves. So let's get right into it. Just to give you I'm not going to go through the entire game, but just some highlights of the game. In that first quarter, it was scoreless, nothing really to talk about there until the second quarter, where Saskatchewan led 13-0 until very late, about 1:11 left on the clock. And thanks to a non-punt and a safety, they conceded a safety there deep in their own end zone. Let Calgary drive the length of the field, which they weren't able to do all game. So Saskatchewan was probably confident about giving Calgary the ball and just giving up 2 and then hopefully stopping them to make them at least, punt or a very long field goal at that. But Calgary was able to get that field goal in field goal range for Paredes to make it 13-5 at halftime. In the second half, Calgary, they're 1-7 when they're trailing at halftime this season. Not looking good for them. But turnovers were big in this one, and this is why. Saskatchewan's opening drive, field goal to make it 16-5. On the ensuing Calgary drive, they punted the ball. And here is where the turnover battle really started to get going. Because Calgary forced a very good punt and kick returner, Mario Alford, to fumble the ball on the punt return. It was deep in Calgary's end when Calgary got it back, and they converted with a touchdown, Jake Maier finding Floyd Allen on the ensuing drive to make it 16-12. So now Calgary has a little bit of momentum. But then the next drive, Saskatchewan, and we're talking about turnovers, they had a 3rd and 2 at around the Calgary 45-yard line, and they didn't get it. They were not even close. Jamal Morrow ran the ball, I think got a yard, if that, to give it back to the Stampeders. Stampeders gave it right back to the Riders with a punt. And then this is the weird thing. The Saskatchewan Roughriders gave it right back to the Stamps. A pick 6 for Cameron Judge made the score 19-16 in favor for the Stampeders. And right then and there, the Riders lost all momentum. All momentum was gone. Yes, they responded with a field goal to tie it up, and then both exchanged punts. And then with 5:22 left to go in the ballgame, Jake Maier for the Calgary Stampeders. Look, season is on the line. You need a good drive here. You need to score 7. Jake Maier dropped back on 2nd and 7, threw a deep ball, 37 yards exactly, to Luther Hakanavanu, down to the 1-yard line. Tommy Stevens was able to sneak it in to score and make it a touchdown game, 26-19. And that was basically ball game right there, because the Roughriders 2 turnover on downs the next 2 drives. So Calgary sealed the game, 5 turnovers for the Riders in the game, and they keep their playoff hopes alive for now. And we'll get to the scenarios after we talk about the statistics. Saskatchewan, let's start with them. Their quarterback, Jake Dolegala, 23 for 33, 272 yards and an interception. Jamal Morrow, he had a pretty good running game. 17 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. That was early in the second quarter. And then receiving, the real highlight is about Sean Bain, the former Stampeder. He had 7 receptions for 103 yards. Samuel Emelis had 4 for 57. Now going to Calgary's side. Jake Mayer, 17 of 29, 184 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interception. The running game, not great. Kadeem Carey, 9 carries for only 32 yards. The running game has really been struggling the last few weeks for the Stampeders. They're going to have to get it going if they have any chance of winning against BC, not only next week or this upcoming week, but in the playoffs. So they're really going to have to get the run game going. Peyton Logan, well, nothing much. 2 for 8 yards. And that's a total of 40 yards for our, top 2 running backs. Peyton Logan, welcome back. I think this was his first game back, so it was nice to see him. But we really didn't get to see him a lot because he only had 2 carries. But the running game will need to get going, especially against BC and going into the playoffs. Because we rely on it so much. I mean, start of the year, I said we were going to need Kadeem Carey to have a great year. Even Dedrick Mills, who didn't play this game, but we're going to need him to, to run the ball. And maybe it's play calling. Maybe it's not enough runs. Maybe it's a lot of passes, which seems to be happening with Jake Mayer. And this is why he's throwing, a lot of interceptions this year. But we really win or lose a ball game with the run game. Today, it just wasn't that good. But we forced a lot of turnovers on defense. Credit to the defense, getting those turnovers, getting even a pick 6. But here at the final stretch of the year, we're going to have to rely on this run game. And the running game is going to have to get going. So I want to see about 15 carries for Kadeem, 15 20. That would be nice. Receiving, Luther Haknavanu led with only 47 yards, 2 receptions at that. That 37-yard strike that I said late in the fourth quarter, that touchdown drive, yeah, that took about 37 of his 47 yards. So huge play by Luther there, though. So that was nice. Kadeem Carey, 5 receptions for 45. Floyd Allen, 3 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. His first career touchdown. Congrats to him. Markin Michelle, 4 receptions for 23 yards. And that's pretty much it for people that had more than 2 receptions, or receivers that had more. And then defensively, I just want to give a shout out to Micah Alway. He's closing in on the special number that Alex Singleton has for tackles in a season for Calgary. I think it's for the team. I think it's for Calgary. He has over 100. I know that. I don't know the exact number. I will check, and next week I will get back to you on that. Cameron Judge, he had the interception. Obviously, I said that. And yeah, turnovers were the story of the game. 5 for Saskatchewan, 0 for Calgary to keep them alive in the playoff race. Because if Saskatchewan would have won this game, they would be going to the playoffs even with losing, 6 straight before this. But now it's 7 straight. Riders opened that door. Calgary finally responded and walked through it. So good for them. But they still have more work to do. The job is not finished. They got BC this weekend and then Winnipeg next weekend. You need Saskatchewan to lose their final game of the year against Toronto this upcoming weekend on Saturday, I think it is. You need them to lose that one. And then if you win this one against BC with the Riders losing, Calgary is in. But if both teams lose, that means Calgary will need a win against Winnipeg. I know it's a lot of information, but stick with me here or go to the playoff scenarios at CFL.ca. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Actually, a little bit of CFL news before we end this podcast. Jacksonville Jaguars promote Canadian QB Nathan Rourke to the active roster, obviously with Trevor Lawrence, if you watch the NFL, going down with, I think, a knee injury. He's questionable for tomorrow night's game because it's on Thursday night. So it's nice to see Nathan Rourke possibly getting out there. We'll see. CJ Beathard is the backup, so he may be starting if Trevor Lawrence is indeed out. But good to see Nathan Rourke getting activated. And the second bit of news I wanted to talk about was actually with the Stampeders. Where is it? Reggie Begelton wins the Stampeders Herm Harrison Memorial Award. It's recognized for a player for outstanding community service. Yeah, so it's awarded to that. Reggie Begelton has had a great impact in the community at the Alberta's Children's Hospital. He also took part in the Every Yard Counts program. Just great to see that he's winning that award. He's a Stampeder now. Hopefully he's a Stampeder for the rest of his career. He's been a Stampeder for, I think, all of his career. So hopefully he can remain one and retire as one. This year, Reggie Begelton, he didn't play against Saskatchewan. He has 82 receptions for 1,053 yards this year and 4 touchdowns. So good for him. Another 1,000 yard year for him. And that's going to do it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see what Calgary has in store for the rest of the year, if they can finish off this playoff push and get in there, go against BC. And we'll see what happens from there. I mean, we need a better, game against BC, especially this upcoming weekend before we look forward to the playoffs. We have to win this game. So let's hope that the Stampeders come out and win, because all we need to do right now is win. So that'll do it for this podcast. We'll see you next time on episode 20 of the RedZone Podcast. But until then, have a great weekend. Peace.